Toren, and I'm the director of Voices of Wisdom. It's a group that meets every Friday to write memoirs and other things that they're interested in. It's for 55 and older. The other day I realized I was in that group too. I want to take care of some business for you today. We're going to be passing around some little tent cards where you can put your name on it. So when the workshop, people can be able to see your names. Okay, so when that comes around, it'll come around with some markers and you can put your name on it and face this way. Let me give you just an outline for our day. I'm not sure, I mentioned that there's the men's bathroom, the women's bathroom. There's also bathrooms out in the park. But let me tell you what's happening today since we couldn't find the programs. So are you ready to take notes? Okay. 10 to 11 will be our first workshop with poet Susan Kelly-Dewitt. And following that, there'll be about 10 o'clock for her, I'm watching the time, and then 11 o'clock for Lee Herrick, our current California Poet Laureate. And he'll go from 11 to 12. And then your lunch on your own. And we weren't sure what was going to happen since this weekend is a high heat. I mean, maybe the hottest we'll have, who knows. We didn't know if it was going to be this hot. I made some fans, so I hope you got one. You may need it later. This is a nice hall, and so it's mostly in the shade most of the day. And most everything will happen here. But after lunch at 1:30, we were planning to do a walk with the poets and docents of the park in the North Grove, but we will be flexible with that. If you don't feel like walking or the poets aren't up for walking, it's too hot, then we'll hang out here. We'll have some short talks for you. At 3 o'clock, we have previous California Poet Laureate, Dana Gioia. And he'll be giving a talk from 3 to 4. And then from 4 to 4:45 or so, we'll have Poet Laureates reading. And then we have an open mic from 4:45 to 6. And so I know we have, if you have any poems with you, or if you create one today, that'll be your time, you can share it. From 3 to 6, the hall is going to be open to the public. So other people may come at that time to hear the readings. Okay, I want to thank Susan Dietrich. I'm going to look at her title here, Special Events Coordinator and Senior Park Aide. And she was the one who I dealt with to help us get the hall, and she came early because we had a need to set up all kinds of stuff. I also want to thank our Voices volunteers. Could you raise your hands, Voices volunteers? They're back there. They're by the food. She's waving her arms. Yeah, I gave it away, sorry. But they've been terrific. And where's Tom? Tom, you didn't wait. He was here really early and he helped. So thank you, Tom. We had an incident. You're not sitting down. Come over here and sit down. We had an incident. Monika fell outside, and she has a cut on the top of her nose. Sit down, please. Sit down. And then, the EMTs came and the whole show, and she signed a waiver saying, "I'm not leaving." So they checked her out. We mopped up the blood because that's what happens when you get a cut on your nose. And she had to wash her hair again in the sink in the kitchen. So I just want them to know they'll keep their eye on you.
Oh, yes. If I start to
Swimmer
incomprehensibly, let somebody know. There's no problem that I can see right now. I remembered login codes this morning. So all good.
She knows her name. She knows the president. She knows the year. I want to give a quick shout out to Susan Kelly-Dewitt because she'll be doing the first workshop from 10 to 11, and she's going to explore how a poet's observations and perspective can deepen the writing process. We will look at our writing through a different lens, pun intended. We will write, read, and discuss your writing. So be prepared to do some writing. And I'm looking for something here. And then Monika has some things to share. Oh, okay. I want to thank Monika, while she's sitting right there and can't get in my way, for we were partners in this endeavor. And both of us have done things like this before. I've done it many times, but I realized this morning that I'm older now. And I'll just leave that said. But I want to read a poem for you this morning to start. And this is a poem I got from my good friend, poet Gary Thomas, because he would read this to his 8th grade English classes every year on the first day of school. So we're kind of in school a little bit. It's by William Stafford. You reading this, be ready. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor? How scent of old wood hovers with softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a greater, better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found, carry into evening all that you want from this day, this interval you spent reading or hearing this. Keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now, starting here, right in this room, when you turn around? William Stafford.
Thanks, Linda. I want to thank all of you guys for being patient too, for all the correspondence and all the work that you've been doing as writers and poets. And I know today, even though with the heat, we might be surprised. It may not get as hot, but I'd encourage you to take that North Grove trail if you can. Just very beautiful. We lost a couple of trees to control burn. Very sad. The orphans, 90% failure to revive them. And so it's a sad thing. So when you take that walk, you will feel the spirits of the trees. And I get really emotional when I'm with them. So let that guide you as you're taking the walk and as you're amongst the trees, and enjoy this beautiful place, really, like no other. Later on, Dana will be here. He's coming at noon, and he said he can't take the heat for the walk, so he's going to hang out in the lodge here, and so people we can do a writing exercise and journaling with him. So that'll be at 1:30. I wanted to thank our sponsors. We are really blessed to have such a wonderful organization such as California Humanities. This is the second grant we've been awarded with them. They supported our Voices of Wisdom, and now they have granted us a wonderful amount to fund not just this event. They funded the Gold Rush Writers Conference. They helped fund that in October. They also are supporting the filming of interviews of our native Miwok that are coming up. We'll be having some wonderful interviews with elders in our communities and record that for history. So we're really excited about that. And we are partnering with CCTV, Calaveras Community Television, with Sarah Lunsford, and she's a wonderful partner. And we have several partners, the museums, Angels Camp Museum, Calaveras Museum, and many other entities, arts councils, for instance, So anyway, wanted to thank the humanities, California Humanities, and also we've had support from other entities as well. The Calaveras Community Foundation has been very, very supportive of our efforts. They're going to be helping us with our equipment for production of interviews. And so we're very, very pleased and thankful to all of those entities. And I think that's it. I do have a poem for you. This is something to live by, and if my life was kind of like this. It's very short. I found a perfect skipping stone and threw it perfectly wrong.
I want to introduce Susan Kelly-Dewitt. She's a poet and visual artist, and the winner and the author of the full-length poetry collection Gatherer's Alphabet. It's the California Poets Prize, Gunpowder Press, 2022, and there's copies back on the table. The table back here has authors' books of people that are here today. And then outside, there's books from Manzanita Writers Press. So the press has published a lot of regional writers, so you can take a look at those too. Gravitational Tug, Main Street Rag in 2020. Spider Season, Cold River Press, 2016. And she has quite a few publications coming out. Her honors include a Wallace Stegner Fellowship from Stanford University and the Chicago Literary Award from another Chicago magazine. Her work has been included in many anthologies, including, I'm not going to say them all, Susan, but there's about 7. I met Susan online when she did a talk for the Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center. And then I contacted her because I do a radio show, a community radio show called Away with Words on kqbm.org. And I interview writers and poets and anything to do with words, poetry, lyrics. I give myself a broad range there. And so we got together on Zoom and I did an interview with her for my radio program. And so, and the same thing happened with Lee also. Lee was, I met him before COVID, that's how it's BC, or, And so he had done a presentation, workshops for us all day at a festival in Modesto. And he was gracious enough to let me interview him as well. So I'm really thankful that both of them could be here today. Susan and I found out we had a few things in common. Our anniversaries are right days from each other, and we've both been married 49 years. We also had a connection with Hawaii, because my family's from there, and she lived there as a child. And we also had a connection with entomology. And what's your book called, the one where you wrote about the insects? Book of Insects, okay. How can I forget? And so, anyway, I'm very pleased that you're here to do a workshop with both Susan and Lee Herrick, and we'll get started now.
I'm very honored to be here and thankful that all of you came, and that thankful to Linda and Monika and Manzanita Writers and for including me in this, and just seems like a wonderful gathering and opportunity for all of us. It's funny that Linda mentioned that we have Hawaii in common, because I just came back from the Big Island, and I was reminded, I did write the Book of Insects, and I was reminded because the place we stayed, we had lizards, we had roaches, we had ants, we had mosquitoes, we had flies, we had everything inside our house, just like when I grew up. I'm going to do a workshop called The Poet as Camera. And for this workshop, we're going to think camera, and we'll talk about how to frame a scene in, to zoom in, to focus, to pan, to develop our poems in the dark room. And I think when you are writing your poems, thinking about in the old days how photographers would put their photos in the chemicals and they would wait in the dark room to see what developed, not really knowing what was going to develop. And I've always thought that's a wonderful way to think about the writing process, especially poetry writing. So I have I'm going to just read a few little notes, and then I'm going to have you also write a poem. But I say some questions to ask as you write your poems. What is the focus? Does the focus change as the poem discovers itself? We're detectives when we're writing poetry. We're solving a mystery. We don't know where it's going to lead, or how it's going to turn out, or who's going to turn out to be the person, if we're writing about, or the thing that is at work in the poem. So I say, also, what happens when you zoom in? What happens to perception and perspective? Things may get larger, they might get clearer, as they would if your camera zoomed in. How close can you get? And so, for example, what if you're writing about a family picnic near the river and there is an oak tree involved in your poem? When you zoom in, you see oak galls tucked among the leaves, maybe some wasps hanging around them. You don't know much about oak galls, so you look them up to learn more about them, and you find oak trees show no lack of imagination when it comes to the swellings they produce in response to tiny insect invaders. The galls they make can resemble poppy seeds, potatoes, spiky sea urchins, and fuzzy caterpillars. These strange plant tissues may be red, pink, yellow, purple, as small as a pinhead or as big as a basketball. But you wouldn't know that unless you zoomed in, unless you also did some research probably, and that adds to your new information, new vocabulary, and that may also lead you to a shift in focus, and that may lead you to the surprise of the poem, which is what we're after when we're writing. If, as Mary Oliver once said, if you know what you're writing about when you begin, then write an essay. Because a poem is always about the surprise for the writer. As Frost said, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. Here's a little quote from John Drury in the book Creating Poetry, which is a great craft book if you aren't familiar with it, on the relationship between poetry and photography. He says, is your poem in focus, or is it blurred? Have you framed your subject properly? Is it too light, maybe too obvious and explained away, or too dark, maybe too private, too unclear for us to, quote, get the picture? Does it have a good movie's continuity? Does it use close-ups effectively? Does it pan across a scene smoothly? Does it track action as it speeds along? Does it look at things from interesting camera angles? All of these questions can be helpful in sharpening the way you look at things and the way you handle those things in your poems. The other thing I always want to say is, so if you think of your poem or the thing that you're trying to write about as a photograph, Louise Gluck said, the search for meaning is the search for context. So what's outside that theme? What happened 5 minutes before, 5 years before? If there's a road leading to the edge of the photograph in your mind, where does it go after it leaves the edge of the photograph's frame. All these kinds of things are things we should be thinking about, and how, once again, thinking in terms of the poet as a camera can really help you come up with things that you would not expect or ordinarily come up with. Look at the time here. So we're definitely on time, but so did you all get your handout already? Yeah. So let's look at this, and I'll have you write for probably about 10 minutes or so, and then everybody would you all be willing to read what you write? Most of you anyway? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of keep going along on that so that we have time to hear everybody too. So the exercise is think of a memory or a scene from your life as if it is a photograph. Begin by literally describing what you see. Make a list of the details, okay? Then try to imagine what you can't see. What is happening, as I just said, outside the picture? Who else might be there unseen? Who took the photograph? In other words, think about the context, just like I said. Maybe you want to bring in something that happened, as I said before, 5 minutes before. So I'm repeating myself here, but ask yourself, though, what sounds are happening at the moment of the picture taking? Are there any fragrances or odors? And you know, when I've taught over the years, I often say, think of yourself, what would you do if you dropped down from another planet and you had absolutely no idea what anything was? You had no names for it, anything. So I might go up and try to taste the microphone, or I might smell it. Ooh, excuse me. I might listen, is it talking back to me? All your senses, I might touch it. What is it? Those kinds of things should be at work. That sort of completely open to looking at the world in a completely new way when you're writing your poems. And so I say, what season is it? What is the light like? What moods or emotions does the photograph convey? And is your eye drawn to one particular detail or part of the picture? And if that happens, then zoom in. I even like to think of, and I do actually sometimes use a microscope when I'm writing my poems to see what things look beneath the surface of just the usual. So not just completely focusing in, but maybe even focusing in microscopically. And ask yourself what the non-human elements of the photograph might be thinking if they could think or speak. So if you can, and also if you can introduce some magic. Brenda Hillman once told me, think dream logic. You can fly from roof to roof in a dream, even though we can't actually do that. But dream logic, that kind of magical thing that can lift a poem into strange new directions that are very enlightening. And I just gave you a little example of that. Shake up the poem if you can with something that could not happen in real life. So the stones in my sentence there are calling out, feed me, feed me. And then try to give it an imaginative title, a title that does some work for the poem, that gives your reader a sort of jump into the poem. I guess I'll stop there for a moment, and I'll just say, ask you if you have any questions that I can answer. Linda?
I'm just going to ask, if some people don't feel like writing a poem, you can just write some prose addressing the same elements, if that's more comfortable for you.
Or you could even write a prose poem.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, hi.
Sometimes just a list of words, just kind of before you begin to read, do you want to just list descriptive words and about the photo that you.
Sure, well, that's in the assignment there.
Oh.
Yeah, right in the beginning. Make a list. I think I said that, didn't I, in the, yeah, uh-huh, yeah. Yeah, make a list of the details, yeah. That's a great way to start anything. You know, I love, if you've read much Charles Wright, you know that he often sits out in his backyard and kind of looks out at his, you know, the horizon, the sky, all the things around him, and he starts making a little list of what he sees, and that list leads him to making associations that are aside from the literal things, and he ends up with these wonderful poems. So yes, that's a great question, and that's a great way to start. Yes. Other questions?
Is it beneficial, or is she going to be looking at an actual photo?
No, I think if you want to do that, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of you seeing it in your mind's eye, but no, if you have brought a photo, fine, you know. It would be interesting to, will you be able to show us the photo?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I thought I'd actually do your exercise first, and then look at the
Oh,
photo.
yeah, okay, that sounds like, you know, I mean, as we know in all great art, rules were made to be broken. I've gone around the room and it seems like many of you are ready to, that you had a good time on the group discussions that worked pretty well, and that many of you are ready to read at the mic to everybody what you wrote. So do you want to raise your hands if you want to read? Okay, all right. So, okay, so we'll go start with the front and we'll work our way to the back. The two people who raised their hands in the front row here, are you going to read too? Okay, so why don't you come up, and Gary, come up, and you guys can.
Fathom Williamson. Okay, my poem is Flitter. Flitter, float, flitter, all light. On top of a flower. In the distance, the breeze sends stale line fluff over the grass. I can't see my friends, and I worry if they are okay. Another breeze cleans the haze, and they appear. Red and black spots show on the leaves, and I see she is okay. Fuzzy and green on the sunflowers, and he is okay. We are drenched in golden light now, and the breeze is gone. We can have our afternoon tea and talk about our dreams and fears. The ladybug, the caterpillar, and me, the monarch. We live among the giants, and we feel we are significant.
Hi, I'm Gary Thomas. I was recently in Maryland where the humidity is 1,000%. And there's a wonderful regional park near DC, and that's where this started. Snapshot of some air. A cardinal was there signaling in the catalpa tree. Honest, because it's Maryland after all, and its air is so wet that birds have to rest. But this one's sweet, sweet, pretty cheer is weary, and he's disappeared off towards some unseen thicket as I slide my phone to focus and trigger an image that isn't there anymore. Somewhere, I tell myself, there is air that whistles all by itself. I wonder what colors are in bird song, and can these words welcome that set of spectra and purpose? What if I aimed straight at the darkening sky to photograph its special sort of threat and coiling beauty? Just now, a pond full of murk and stillness, an inch beneath, translucent squirming life and the chirp of the smallest frog on the eastern seaboard. I want to submerge the camera I am in this moment to see what happens next. I don't do that. Instead, I put the phone in my pocket just as the cardinal lands on the wet grass, announces the agenda for the rest of the afternoon, which seems to include me. I take good notes and film nothing but the precious air. Thanks.
All right. A filmer's prose. It was a box I opened. The smell of cedar and dried blood filled the room. Oh, this box must have been to Big Trees before. Maybe someplace else. As I lifted the box lid to peer at the camera inside, curiosity imploded my mind. Where had this camera been? What had it seen in the past? Overwhelmed by the thought, I found the urge to shut the lid, the rigid lid. The temptation raced to put the box back where I'd found it, to forget the experience and shut it away. But at that moment I remembered, maybe this camera had seen great things. Maybe this camera has saved the world.
Thank you. I'm Julie Daniels, and this is called Curtain, the opening. Chocolate brown puff sleeve dress. Teenage excitement bubbles deep within my belly. I am magnetized to the platform where black leotarded arms encircle the air, heads raised, bobbing to the equine. The transformation has begun. I am ready, so ready to be them.
Hi, I'm Carrie Steffi, and wow, Erin, who knew? So this is called the Sentient Warrior. Among the stately soldiers, towering protectors of everything below, striated brown thick skin, stippled in sunlight, a deep green canopy contrasting with the bright blue sky, at a height, craning our necks in an awkward angle. Home to woodpeckers, bats, salamanders, and an abundance of insects, giving life to us by absorbing sunlight to make sugar from carbon dioxide. What is this? An afternoon shower of water falling on the visitors below? No. The sentient warrior is shedding tears for their lost loved ones fallen below. Thank you, Monika, for the ending.
This is called Infinity. Me and mine, smiling across the round, rickety table, ignoring its tacky stickiness while conjuring up perfect vacation toasts. We sit next to a large cold mirror, a 3x3 reflection of our wine-juiced smiles. A smaller mirror, more friendly, watches us from the far wall. Their mutual reflections cause us to travel together down a shrinking row of infinity, each couple slightly different than the next, one chin higher, the next nose righter, the smiles quirking, smaller, smaller, gone. The toasts are made, the glasses clinked, the nectar drunk, the table left. As we re-enter the heat of the street, we hear the sound of breaking mirror behind us.
My name is Margaret, and this is Windows of Terror. The sun reflects off barely visible filaments, swaying in the gentle breeze, woven within the branches of low-lying manzanita. Scents of mountain misery encompass grandmother arachnid as she ponders the approaching human, with contraption held aloft, blocking spectacles. It is into the eyes of this woman matriarch needs to see. She must peer, for it is only through these windows of the soul that she will know the truth. Should she run for her life?
Hi, Shirley. Thank you for this opportunity. This is really cool what you all have put together. My name is Linnea, and this is called The Dynamic Past. I'm drawn here. This dynamic past, frozen as now, forever. His bearded face, shaggy hair, eyes focused toward an action conceived. He, the adventurer, sitting in momentary repose. I soak in the essence of our together dream, our together seeding, nurturing, manifesting life on this wild land lanced by Rancheria Creek, now just a path of dry bedrock and bleached stone. The smell of dry earth and ponderosa lifting in the rising heat. I won't forget this image of him, the artist surveying his hillside canvas, preparing to create his life work.
My name is Joyce, and I too appreciate this event and the organizers. And the sound person, thank you so much. Driving around a curve. Driving around a curve, she spotted the fawn in mid-lane, dancing on stilted legs. The doe cautiously paused beside the winding pavement. Pines and manzanitas stilled, and mailboxes froze in waiting queues. A breathless moment of gazing for oncoming cars, softly braking and whispering a prayer. May you be safe. Brilliant dots of white, surrounded in blurred, camouflaged colors, brought her breath back to life. She waited. The fawn sprang across the blacktop into the Toren and disappeared, followed by the patiently watching doe. Smiling in gratitude, breathing in tranquility, she was gently blessed on her drive to town.
Hi, I'm Catherine Darmer, and this is the Tree of Life. Spring day, blue skies, cotton ball clouds, rolling grassy hills with wildflowers in bloom, air so sweet, filled with music and jasmine, babbling brook down below, rolling downhill, laughter following, immersed in cool water, flowing around, naked body refreshes the soul. Crawling onto the grassy bank, becoming one with the mother, looking up and discovering the tree of life, tall and reaching, wide, full of life. Trunk extends the earth, each branch a country with smaller branches for cities, towns, and villages. Leaves for people, waving vigorously, joyously living, holding on for dear life, the wind taking them old to lands unknown, the wind moaning for those lost, gone with the wind, but the memory is still near.
Good morning, or afternoon. My name is Tama Brisbane. I am the Stockton Poet Laureate Emerita now. I was the first when they appointed me in 2015, and after 4 terms, I said, yeah, I'm done. it took a minute for us to get here, but we are so thankful and grateful to have gotten this opportunity. So I have to model what I mentored. I only have a memory of his photograph, black and white, like the reality forced upon him. Old, wrinkled like he was. He is tree tall and 3 a.m. dark. His smile is thin and stretches across his mouth, but not his face. Slavery did not leave him that much joy. His tailored striped suit drapes his 6'7" frame as though aware of its status as stand-in for the robes he once wore in either Senegal or Ghana. His ancestry is invisible and lost in the background of a Polaroid itself, now lost to time and the ashes of the fire that consumed his granddaughter's house after she fell and then ascended to take her place next to him as a beloved ancestor. But her photograph I do have. So following behind me are 6 members of Stockton's National Youth Poetry Slam team. Each one of these ladies had to compete to get their slot, and treated this exercise, even though we were late arriving, we are so sorry, but we wanted to take part in absolutely everything this day has to offer. So you will hear Faith Bradley, you will hear Coda Gray, you will hear Jagger Stegee, you will hear Ariane Grimm, you will hear Michaela Cooks, you will hear, no, you're last, and then you'll hear Dana Gioia.
Thank you. I stand in the back of a dimly lit room. No one hears nor sees me. Blank eyes focus on 4C curls and caramel skin. Brown eyes clouded by pastel icy blue, she wears ripped jeans and a deep V. Her tan is natural but seen as abnormal. I capture an image of the young girl standing alone in the dimly lit room. It is a selfie. Thank you.
See me at 14, standing in front of my dying father. Wow, that cloud outside the window is pretty. I don't know how I'm supposed to tell him he's losing me, because he's leaving me. I remember grass stains on your knees. Now you're laid out on bleak white sheets. I'm afraid the grass will swallow you completely. How would you expect me to move on? With memories and pictures around my house, that is not enough, because you will leave me and I am no longer all of me. Frames can't hold all you are, Father, so stay until you are no longer welcome. You aren't a memory yet. Don't try and leave me so abruptly.
The frame of the picture holds all the details perfectly still. There is a bird perched on the branch of a tree, just steps away from its nest, standing still forever in the photo. This frame is the glue. It is the thing that gives the photo purpose. It is the photo's muse along with its comfort. Inside the frame, there is more than just the bird perched on a branch. There is life and there is wisdom. There is light climbing all around the subject of the still photo. We cannot see it, but there is wind all around the tree, asking the tree to model in a different way every few seconds, so it can embrace its own beauty. There are leaves breaking away from the foundation of the tree. They are traveling to another place, but the camera does not pick that up. The camera's job is to capture a moment. This moment may be small, but it speaks loudly, stands tall, and it shines and smiles brightly because it captured the beauty in something nobody else saw.
Each tree singing in harmony. Branches on the floor smell of wet wood, reminding me of home. Little sprinkles of rain on the leaves falls down speaking to me. The light coming in from one way down to my skin, nature telling me I'm important. Deers running through, branches breaking, summer entering fall, seasons changing. Nature is speaking. Water is crashing down, falling into a river of streams, crickets chirping, birds flying, insects moving, cycle of life. The smell of forbidden woods with a hint of dreams. Falling in love with how nature speaks to me. Sun kissing each part of me, the touch of nature planting a kiss on my forehead. Expressing to me each beauty it holds. The wind swirling around me, bringing a whisper to the trees. Oh, to be a part of this life cycle. Nature talks to me and says, thank you for walking through the beauty.
I remember you in an old photograph, color dulled and muted, autumn leaves nearing gray, and the film so distorted I can barely recognize your face. I can feel the wind against my face, and it's almost like you're here again. Shoes just as beat up as the last time I saw you, the ends of your hair splitting more and more. It's almost a perfect recreation. But your voice isn't the same, and I've nearly forgotten the sound of your laughter. The wind is growing colder. It's winter now. I won't ask you to come back soon.
Two things. One, I don't title my pieces, but this is a first. Atherton. The room filled with excited buzzing, a cacophony of voices, tuned in to the tuning of the strings, the bellowing of the brass. He stands, poised at the ready, the baton summoning an army of bows and bodies, swaying a sea of black and white, to and to and fro, a crescendo, a crash, a concerto. A 6-year-old, worried that her pigtails and polka dot dress wouldn't pair well with the strings of pearls dangling from the necks of nobility, wide brown eyes and a warm, crooked smile as she sits by the Firebird. Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to say one quick thing. Oh, I'm sorry that we went over a little bit on time, but for those of you who read your poems out loud, either to each other or to all of us, sometimes we don't remember that this is the first time in the history of the universe that those words have been spoken in that particular order. And when you write them, that's the first time in the history of the universe that those words have been written in that order. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thanks, Linda, Monika, everybody. And I'm looking forward to hearing Lee. Sorry, I did go over a little bit, but this is for all of you. Bravo, bravo.
Okay, so our first reader is Lee Herrick, California Poet Laureate.
So, hello again, everyone. This has been an incredible day, hasn't it? It's been full of surprise and inspiration. So, again, Linda, thank you for having me. And I'm going to read one poem from my second book, and then a few from Scar and Flower, and then maybe a new one. And I'm so tempted to read something that I wrote on this. Yeah, I don't usually do this, but then Gary Thomas, wonderful poet, is egging me on. But maybe I'll do that. It was actually after your prompt, Susan. So I'll start with this, though. I wrote this poem when I was thinking about California, things I have seen and hoped for and imagined. My California. Here, an olive votive keeps the sunset lit. The Korean 20-somethings talk about hyphens, graduate school, and good pot. And a group of 4 at a window table in Carpinteria discuss the quality of wines in Napa Valley versus Lodi. Here in my California, the streets remember the Chicano poet whose songs still bank off Fresno's beer-soaked gutters and almond trees in partial blossom. Here in my California, we fish out long noodles from the pho with such accuracy, you'd know we'd done this before. In Fresno, the bullets tire of themselves and begin to pray 5 times a day. In Fresno, we hope for less of the police state and more of a state of grace. In my California, you can watch the sun go down like in your California. On the ledge of the pregnant 22nd century, the one with a bounty of peaches and grapes, red onions, and the good salsa, wine, and japchae. Here in my California, paperbacks are free. Farmers markets are 24 hours a day and always packed. The trees and water have no nails in them. The priests eat well. The homeless eat well. Here in my California, everywhere is Chinatown. Everywhere is K-Town. Everywhere is Armenia Town. Everywhere, a little Italy. Less Confederacy. No internment in the valley. Better history texts for the juniors. In my California, free sounds and free touch. Free questions, free answers, free songs from parents and poets, those hopeful bodies of light. So I thought I'd read a poem. I mentioned that I was adopted from South Korea, and I'll just say a brief word about this poem. I think I mentioned I haven't met my birth parents, or first father. So this poem is sort of a love song for her, but I think it's also a love song of sorts for adoptees everywhere. How music stays in the body. Your body is a song called Birth or First Mother, a miracle that gave birth to another exquisite song. One song raises 3 boys with a white husband. One song fought an American war overseas. One song leapt from 14 stories high and like a dead bird shattered into the clouds. Most forgot the lyrics to their own bodies or decided to paint abstracts of mountains or moons in the shape of your face. I've been told mothers don't forget the body. I can't remember your face, the shape or story, or how you held me the day I was born, so I wrote 1,000 poems to survive. I want to sing with you in an open field, a simple room, or a quiet bar. I want to hear your opinions about angels. Truth is, angels drink too. Soju spilled on the halo, white wings sticky with gin, as if any mother could forget the music that left her. You should hear how loudly I sing now. I've become a ballad of wild dreams and coping mechanisms. I can breathe now through any fire. I imagine I got this from him or you, my earthly inheritance, your arms, your sigh, your heavy song. I know all the lyrics. I know all the blood. I know why angels howl into the moonlight. Thank you. Don't feel like you have to. If you want to give me one clap at the end, I never know. You know that, should I clap for this one? So, let's see. I'll just read a couple more. Flight. I wrote this. Yeah, I'll read this one and then a new one. This is a poem I wrote basically on a flight, and there was a crossword puzzle in the magazine in the seat in front of you. Remember that? And two people had already begun the crossword puzzle, and I just started to try to finish it. I mean, I didn't finish it, but it became a poem about, well, maybe that'll speak for itself. Flight. The in-flight magazine crossword partially done, a corner begun here, scratched out answers there, one set of answers in pencil, another in the green. And the woman with the green ballpoint knew the all-time hit king is Rose. And the Siem Reap treasure is Angkor Wat. And the woman, perhaps en route to hold her dying mother's hand in Seattle, forgot about death for 10 minutes while remembering her husband's Cincinnati Reds hat while gardening after the diagnosis. Her handwriting was so clean. Maybe she was a surgeon. Maybe a painter. No. What painter wouldn't know 17 down? Diego's love. 5 letters. In a rush, her dying mother's voice came back to her, or maybe she was a Chinese adoptee, and her first mother's imagined voice said, "Woe, I me." At 30,000 feet, you focus on 33 across. Asian American classic, The Woman. When a stranger in the window seat sees the clue, watches me write in W, and she says, "Warrior." And for a moment you forget it is your favorite memoir, and she reminds you of lilies or roses, Van Gogh or stems with thorns, art galleries and romantic cities where she is headed, but you should not go. And the flight attendant grazes my shoulder. The crossword squares, the letters, the chairs and aisles seem so tight in flight, but there is nothing here but room, really. Maybe the next passenger will know what I do not. 64 down, 5 letters, purpose. And why do we remember what we do? We know the buzz of Dickinson's fly and the number of years in Marquez's solitude, but some things we will never know as it should be. Why the body sometimes rumbles like a plane hurtling over Southern Oregon. How exactly we fall in love, or if Frida and Maxine Hong Kingston would have loved the same kind of tea. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple short ones and then a short last book. Exile. Our natural state is not defensive or tense, but water in a resting state. We state this to be true in an age of inquiry, our failure to put what is just before ease. There are lovers in another country reclining by a fire, admitting love in a common language with faith in the exiles of their state, where a woman looks at her friend and says, "Please, put down your bag and stay. Please, stay to see how the movie ends. Take my hand. I think the city might go up in flames." And then I'm gonna read this poem. Y'all can critique it if you want later. This was just written very recently. Actually, I did read it. I was in a group back there, and I tinkered with the ending a little bit. So this is with thanks to Susan for the wonderful prompt from The Poet is Camera. 1971, Korea. I'm 5 months old and already tired of a future I didn't know would require so much music. My thick black hair filled with starlight and my birth mother's breath. I'm chubby with side eye like a Korean grandmother. Someone, off camera, maybe the new intern, placed a placard on my chest, number 01543. Holocaust, numbers tattooed on the wrist. Japanese internment, number and tan ID tag. California state prisoner, cell block ID number. No person is only their number. Each one of us can sing. I can't read music, can't carry a tune, can't count the numbers of the drum beat, but that spirit, the full-throated fire song that pours out starlight and my birth mother's breath, a final verse. All right. Okay, last one. And again, thank you, everybody. I'm so grateful, Linda, and beyond honored to read with Susan and Dana, and I wish you all the best. So this is the last poem in Scarred Flower. It's for our daughter. My wife is a big reader and writer, and when my daughter's now, well, she's gonna be 18 next week, but this poem I wrote from a memory when she was maybe 3 or 4, and she was just reading and I couldn't hear what she was saying. The house is quiet except my daughter reads on the couch, whispers the dialogue. I only hear the consonants of her name, the way I imagine a house of books in a future age, 2035, when I will be 65 and alive, I hope, and she will be 31, perhaps with faith and a love she can count on. Wild trees, wild flowers, a man or a woman, perhaps God or someone else to whom she can whisper dialogue if she forgets where her heart is. How there is a pulse in every book. How looking down into the open page reminds us of prayer, the next night of restoration, and the light around her body. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to force a metaphor here because as Lee was reading, I felt like it was food. I think words for me can be food, poetry and writing and words are like food that nourish me. So thank you. I'll say a quick story that Lee didn't tell you. Years ago, a woman read one of his poems and she emailed him, I think she was in Europe, and she asked if she could tattoo the poem on her body.
I was saying something. I'm sorry, you were telling the story?
Your story about the woman who wanted to use tattoo your poem on her body.
Yeah, she ended up using a couple of lines from the different poem.
Yeah. But when he got the request, he talked to friends and stuff and said, well, what do you think? You know? And they all said, yeah, go ahead. So somewhere there's that woman going around with the first two lines of Lee's poem tattooed. And then everyone has to read it. So I thought that was cool. Susan Kelly-Dewitt is currently the editor of Tully Review. And if you don't know it, you can look it up online. And I think there's some people in the room here who submitted. And she's the editor. And when will that be coming out? August. Okay. She wears many hats. She's worked with poetry in so many different ways in the Sacramento area that I can't list them all. She's had a lot of experience sharing poetry with people. So, Susan Kelly-Dewitt.
Thanks again to Linda and to Monika and to all of you for being here and being such a great group of writers and audience. And lucky me to get between two poets laureate, both of whom I respect their work and their lives a lot. I'm not going to say very much. I'm just going to read a couple of poems from a book that came out quite a few years ago now, and then I'll move on to two other books, and I'll just read the poems. Interrogative. From what catalog did we order the housefly's designer clothes? What if at the end of the butterfly's wing there is an anti-butterfly? Who developed the grief chemical that poisoned our ozone? If there is a God, does it wear perfume? 2. When will the skulls in their bone uniforms hand us our walking papers? How many bandages will it take before the bleeding stops? Is it true what they say, that there is really only one bandage? 3. What if the rose is the temple and the bee is the prophet? Next poem is titled Don't Forget. Don't forget the moon snail on the beach, its shining hut, its ice-white igloo, the way the grasses on the hills rising from the sea are dried back to brown sticks, and the fields have grown an old man's stubble that will green again, that will come back as silks, tender and supple. Don't forget the young man nearby who practices Tai Chi, his body a lariat, a slow rippling whip, near the surf's lip, the way he bows to the sea at the end as we lift the moon snail onto an invisible plate of late sunlight, as we pluck it from its place in the amoral and fractured and timeless universe, as we dislodge it. Don't forget. Now I'm going to read just a few from my book, Gravitational Tug, which came out a couple of years ago. Falling asleep. I hear the so-called celestial music, the symphony of spheres swelling like a sonorous vein at my temple, the prayer wheels of the universe spinning off audible chorales. And I try to shake myself free of the wonder. Am I sane? I lift my shadow hand up into the dark and see a halo like pale fireflies or luciferous fish, a nebula cloud rimming my fingers, natural bottom dwellers by day. Held up in a biomudra, abeyance of fear gesture, and I blink, try to blink it all away, and it does go. It vanishes, but comes back as memory, as ghost fire. This is a poem built entirely of questions and couplets after Neruda. Who wrote the expository essay of the sky? If the sun is our instructor, what grade will it give us? Who is the dean of the galaxies? Who are the regents of black light? And what is our moon revising with its white reflective pen? Is it composing a love poem or a lament? How many desert islands in the mind at 7 minutes until death? If we pry open the mouth of night, will we find 2 rows of uneven teeth? Isn't that what the old religions meant by the devourer? Who will the dolphins vote for on election day? How will the sharks cast their ballots? Will the grains of sand along the shore stand up to be counted? The same old sly barracudas fix the results once again. What is that tunnel of white light the fresh from the dead claim to have seen? How many watts is it at peak load? And when it burns out, who will replace the bulb? Who booked our passage to the graveyard? Is it true there is a border wall and we'll be lost there without a passport? Medicine, 3 a.m. Shantideva says, whatever happens, I will not let my cheerfulness be disturbed. Being unhappy won't get me anywhere and will dissipate my goodness. Sambhava says, why say the search is futile? Thought and liberation exist simultaneously. Why say all medicines are impotent? This awareness is the medicine. Why say I don't know? The quiet voice of one poet tells me there is a moment in middle age when you grow bored, angered by your middling mind, afraid. The image she offers is that of a spoiled pear, the shadow of ruin spreading through the ripened flesh from inside. Nothing is settled. Thank God, my beloved sleeps beside me, brimming with life and breath. Jane Kenyon is the poet who I refer to in that poem. And the last one I'll read from this book is a poem called Neruda. And there's a quote from Neruda. Is it true that in an anthill, dreams are a duty? Today I saw the solemn face of a yellow jacket working a nasturtium leaf, gripping it with all his might, clinging to the life raft of scalloped green, sucking the last bit of moisture and sweetness from the 100-degree heat. But why was the thirsty ambassador to the penal colonies of ancient light so dressed up? What magus dreamed up his smidgen, his gold syrup duds, striped like a jailbird or trickster? Little prospector, his gilt lips provoked only rich questions. Okay, thanks. So I'm going to read from my newest book that came out a year and a half ago already now. The first poem in the book is called Calling the Horses. You whistle and they turn their heads. A roan mare pushes up slowly from the dusky pasture grasses. A palomino and chestnut bay follow in sequence behind her. They move toward us without conviction. The mare's belly slumps with the weight of her unborn foal as we call to them across barbed wire. In our minds, we beg for the victory of their close looks, but they stop, refuse to look longer, turn away the grazing darkness of their eyes, fall back to each other. Wild oats silver the fields. Blue bottles leap up along the roadside in 4 fringed colors. I stoop to gather a few wild panicles. The crushed juice of the broken stems perfumes my thumbs. It feels like beauty, the way the colors hold themselves out to be touched. Hummingbird Sutra. Every live bird is a thrumming under the ribs. The song sparrow, Melospisa melodia, wearing clear feathers of wind. Even tyrant crows, that hunger and glint, lift like beauty in my throat. But when a hummingbird hangs like a small wheel of fire above a bleeding heart's hooded inner life, when it pierces a sunflower's honeycomb eye to suck the rough sweetness or dips to sting a ragged fringe cup with its bliss, I want to shake myself loose, fledge iridescent feathers of human song. I missed my, okay. Oh, well, I'll just read this one. Callous. And this is a quote from a letter by Anita Pulitzer to Georgia O'Keeffe, the painter. The callous made for you to paint. Callous. She's out in a dusty field, painting the white funnels stubbed with nubs of butter color. Her ivory shirt sleeves spattered in oils, scrolled up over thick, useful wrists. No matter if the field's in her mind, there's a burning, a wind wild as loneliness, an open space between two faraway ridges. The callas unfold slowly, reluctantly. She grows stubbornly toward each flower, like an eye toward its only light. I'll close with two poems, the title poem and the last poem in the book. And the Gatherer's Alphabet poem is an abecedarian, so every line starts with a letter of the alphabet. Gatherer's Alphabet. Archive day, night, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Be an apothecary of wonder. Arrange an arsenal of antidotes called art. Admire avocets and arachnids. Bottle up buddies, beauty, and even brambles. Bravos to Buddha, to butterflies, and to brash woodlea bouquets. Collect coriander, carpenter bees, carnivals, and carp. Consort with the condemned. Dive into the country of being. Dive in unafraid. Elope with crow on the coldest morning of your life. Fish with the ghosts of salmon, drag the river for their sisters' bones. Get greedy, get down on your knees, give the grass a kiss. Haul hope in, big truckloads of it, build big hills of it in your backyard, hoard it along with any hugs. Invent a tool for digging up, one fat root to anchor you. June is the time to gather jars of jasmine and jewelweed. Keep your kitchen stocked with keepsakes, kestrels, curios, kisses, and kites. Lit the shine from snail trails, trout scales. Add lusty to your lexicon. Listen and lap gold from Limoges. Make a gatherer's list. Make a map, then abandon it. You are only a mist. Notebooks are good for the illusion of containing. N is for nihilist equals nil. Oleanders, orchestras, orchids, and Omar Khayyam under the O's. Pack your parlor with plethora, parakeets, poetry, and plum jam. Quietly become the queen of quantum. Round up the red diamonds of sunset, the repertory of river reeds. Sorrow has its own saloons, filled with soldiers and suicides. Tease the shadows out of hiding. Tally the dead, but also the truth of the living. Utter the name of each thing at least once. Understand the word as umbilicus. Verbs, vines, veins, verisimilitude, and venom should appear in your variorum. Whole-souled, wholeheartedly grab the world. Whoop it up. Leap. X out the Xeroxed ink blot you think stains your soul. Yoke yourself to yarrow, yoke yourself to yellow, to the life-giving yarrow. Yearn, yawp, yow. Zoom the zones of the ineffable. Life zips by. Leave your mark like Zorro. And I'd just like to close with one more short one, if that's okay, the last poem in the book, Autumnal Equinox. The stars clicked on late. I lounged aimlessly in my room. Outside, crazed moths were sucking and grazing the crimped lips of trumpet flowers. It seemed like everyone I knew had something precious to give away, some mystery free for the taking. When I lifted my face from a book, I remembered every happiness, every kindness ever afforded me. Thank you.
Okay, let's come back together. Now, this is going to divide the weak from the strong. Because here we go. We absolutely want to have an open mic where we can hear from a variety of people or participants that are here today. So thank you so much. Some people had to go, but it's just been the best day of my life so far. No, I was doing a poetry workshop in Amador County Elementary School, and when I was done with the workshop, this one little boy, fourth grader, came up and said, "This was the best day of my life. I just knew it was going to be the best day of my life." So darn cute, so darn cute. He actually wrote a poem that his class gave him a standing ovation for, so that might have been why he was so excited. So let's come together. Let me give you a quick thing about how we're going to run the open mic. We're going to start with some local laureates, because we do have some. And then we're going to have people that are here come up. So I'll just be kind of pulling you up, and if you want to share, then that's what we'll do, okay? First, I'd like to introduce Conrad Levasseur. And he has to follow Dana, and I said, better you than me. Conrad is a wonderful poet. He was the first poet laureate of Calaveras County. And it's not easy to have that happen, to have a laureate happen in a county. I mean, it could be a county, it could be a city. Calaveras has a population of 46,000 people. So really, it would have to be a laureate for the county, wouldn't it? Because there's just not enough people. We're considered severely rural, in case you want to know. Severely rural. Yeah. So Conrad's going to share a couple of poems, and then we'll be having the poet laureate of Amador County read.
Well, Linda's right. It's not exactly an easy act to follow with Dana, but I am grateful to know I don't need to have an MFA to be able to be out here. So. I'm from Boston originally. I moved to San Francisco in 1970. I went into the city single. At the end of 1980, left with 3 kids and a wife and came up here. I found myself... Well, I started writing when I was in college, but it was not classes, it wasn't anything. It just really got struck with poetry, and it was a medium for me as art evolved into that as well. But I knew right away that I knew that I wasn't going to make a living off of it. So when I went back to Boston, I thought I was going to write for one of the Boston papers. And I heard that there was a travel company looking for a tour director to take groups to Hawaii from the East Coast. And I said, you could actually get paid for doing that? Well, they wound up hiring me, and then I figured, what have I got to lose? A trip to Hawaii, a training trip, and then it just kept evolving. And over time, I wound up guiding groups to well over 100 different countries. And so I led photographic wildlife safaris all over Africa. I did anthropological, archaeological trips in Central South America, you know, pretty much on. And then I found myself, before meeting my wife for 43 years as a single parent, with living in the Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco with 2 boys, 2 and 3 years old. And I equated it with being dropped naked in the jungle with no supplies or provisions, literally entering no man's land. And so I wound up actually doing one of the books I wound up publishing, had to do that. It was a single parent wilderness in a nursery room. So coming up here and spending a lot of time, I mean, this was just, actually loved it, coming up to Calaveras County, a lot of time exploring the Sierra, writing about the Sierra, writing about the foothills, also writing about just whatever it was I found in front of me. That was the material in which to work with. And as I said, it really helped me to really distill my experience and put it in perspective. And I just felt we're all multidimensional beings, and sometimes our persona is just one dimensionality of what that is. So coming on, I work at Ironstone Vineyards. I've been there quite a while. We just had a concert with over 6,000 people there on Thursday night. Slightly Stupid was the main group, and then Movement, and I forget the other groups, but it was like, it was a different kind of a poetry going on, but probably would have been totally sold out if it was on a Friday night. And so we were recovering the next day from that, and today I thought, oh, I want to get up here. And I found myself, of course, racing to get up here. I was really happy to be able to come in. I think I missed about 20 minutes of Dana's talk, and really came in and caught a good amount of it, which was very inspirational for me. I'm not usually in that kind of a position, so I got really inspired by what he had to say. And but I said, what am I going to, you know, driving up here? Should I write about experiences in Africa? Should I write about being a single parent? Should I write about the extraordinary experiences in the foothills? And this is like a sacred place to me, Big Trees. It is like a cathedral or a grove that I've come up many times with my wife, and then with kids, and then people visiting us on all types of the year. And so, I mean, I said, when I got here, I didn't have time to think. I was really absorbed with what Dana had to say. And at some point I had to go, oh, I've got to pick one, because I know we have a lineup of other people going to do it. And this one thing had been going through my mind for quite some time. I mean, we're living in very challenging time. There's such a divisive nature in so many ways, separating people instead of bringing them together. And of course, I think a lot about some countries I've been in, where people have lost just not what they had from a material point of view, but they've lost their own countries. And so one of the places, of course, that's in, and this was tricky because I wrote this back about 1994 about Russia. And it was right at that time, for some of you who weren't even born then, I don't think. And it was when Mikhail Gorbachev was really in a position of really changing things with a couple of things, Glasnost and Perestroika books. The whole Russia was changing, things were really opening up. And I was optimistic. I had really gone in 1970, the first time, right across Russia in my early days leading a group, and a lot of the rest of that part of the world. But I found myself around 94 getting asked to lead a trip to the foundation of the gold in some of the old original towns of Russia. And one of those things was doing a cruise on the Volga River to those towns. Well, there was an attempted coup. We didn't know it was attempted. We thought it could have happened with Gorbachev, for those that you were around at that time. And so it's really unknown as to what's happening with the country. And so there were a lot of people who cancellations were going to happen. We had a representative in Moscow, and they were going to cancel the cruise, but she was able to, with her connections, get them to honor the cruise. I mean, they literally did cancel it for everyone but my small group. So she decided to invite some of her professional friends along to join us. We wound up going on it. Well, this ship, it wasn't a huge ship, maybe a few hundred passenger. We took over what was probably like the equivalent of like a coffee shop or a lounge, and we invited the crew members that were on it to join us. We invited the cooks and the waitresses to join us. So we all became, it was an extraordinary, 6 nights on that cruise, just interacting with her friends and the other people. Well, one of the nights there, we were staying at what was called the Convent of the Intercession. It used to be a convent, and they turned it into a pilgrimage place. And so we were staying there, and everybody was in, it was like a really crisp night. The fog was coming in. So we were staying there, and I looked around and needed to get outside. I was wide awake and probably overtired and wired, but I mean alert. And I noticed all the lights in everybody else's little places was off. So I went outside, I just started walking around. And it was amazing just feeling the energy of that whole place, of all the things that had happened. And I just walked around and I was thinking about it, and I wound up going back, and this is what I wound up writing about this Convent of the Intercession. So Convent of the Intercession, and this is up to honor people over there and many other places that are caught between the political ends, who really don't want to be at war, who want to be able to be at events like this. I was really inspired in my early days by a couple of Russian poets, Yevtushenko and Voznesensky, and I think the spirit that they really, that I got was like whatever I thought poetry was, which was more in an academic kind of a point that Dana kind of alluded to, is when I started hearing about Yevtushenko filling stadiums, you know, people coming to hear his poetry, or going out onto the fields and he'd get on top of a cart and farmers would stop and they'd gather around to hear him speak. So he said something else is going on in there in terms of poetry and in other countries as well that goes way, way back. Anyways, I'm just trying to put it in a little bit of a context. So, walking the grounds of the convent in the misty night rain, trying to transform basic level chakric energy into realms of hopeful greater light. Turned into a museum after the revolution when Lenin became a new mystical Christ. Now a resting spot for tourists making pilgrimages to the old orthodoxy and Russian foundation of the Golden Ring. Established in 1364, missing the first bitter wave of Khan Batu's Tatar-Mongol hordes. Tsar's wives were exiled here, victims of dynastic struggles, accused infertility, or just male-female warfare. Walking the grounds of the convent in the misty night rain, thinking of Tunkashila and grandmother, Native American wisdom, doing prayer circles to the four directions for Mother, Father, Earth, and Sky, for the personal family being within and the global family being without. Walking the grounds of the convent in the misty night rain, thinking about tasting shashlik at 10 o'clock in the morning, washed down with cold shots of vodka, out in the Volga rain riverbank, leaves turning in the mysterious mist-quiet island, walking out of time. Just after the coup, toast to new Russian friends, cardiologist, journalist, international travel coordinator, TV producer, language teacher, Middle East expert, psychiatrist, foreign affairs minister, professional Soviet guide, while thousands wait hours in line for bread. Knowing that the changes here are equally deeply, directly affecting and being affected by the changes at home. The ship's cooks and waitresses singing and dancing in this land of Pushkin and Tolstoy, czars and communist kings, Sakharov and Solzhenitsyn, Gorbachev and Yeltsin, toasting, painting new peace doves of hope that give victories in battles won without buttons or swords. Walking the grounds of the convent in the misty night rain, thinking about a chanting priest in golden robes, wafting golden crosses and swinging incense to 300 bowing babushkas, genuflecting before ancient icons, resurrecting centuries of suffering and joy. Oh, Mother Russia, I feel the awesome tears for your sons, conscripted, gone to war, famine, camps, deprivation, blood to build an empire. Holy Virgin, become goddess of fruit of knowledge, of wisdom that cannot be held onto, only released to the eternal, devouring flame. Remembering a babushka who reaches my waist, looks like a sacred aged icon herself, going down to the cold stone floor to embrace and kiss it in the name of Christ. Her heel brushes my toe, her well-worn earth-colored coat taking on a luminescence of the Savior's robe. My mind, for a moment, is as clear and pure as the flame. Walking the grounds of the convent in the misty night rain, thinking of the everyday great mystery, not knowing what anything is. Am I the living paint of Andrei Rublev, struggling to break the bonds of the golden glittering iconostasis? Or am I the peasant upon whose skull was built this holy citadel, standing by the Kamenka River, wiping his soiled hands on worn cloth-covered thighs? Before, it might have been a rosary or Tibetan meditation beads. Before, it might have been messages from a desert-tongue flaming bush or prostrations to empowered icons of the Holy Christ and Virgin Mother. Before, it might have been ablutions in the Mother Ganges or a prayer rug on the road to Mecca. Before, it might have been a sacred grove, holy peak, or virgin spring. Now, tonight, it's this simple, misty night rain on the grounds of this convent of intercession, rejoicing with its ghosts of flesh-filled suffering and transcendental spiritual exaltation. Rejoicing with its ghosts of flesh-filled suffering and transcendental spiritual exaltation. Thanks very much. I'm glad to be a part of this.
Oops. I can be as tall as Conrad. Thank you. I would like to invite Margaret Lewis to come up. Margaret Lewis is the current Poet Laureate of Amador County. And we had a wonderful, if you were here, you had a wonderful reading by Lee Herrick of the first Poet Laureate of Amador County, Kat Everett, who passed 2 weeks ago. So I promised her when I last saw her that her presence would be here. And if she could, and maybe she is here, Margaret.
I love all the tales of the formal poetry and the immersion in poetry and all the things that people know and have learned. I started poetry knowing nothing, except that it was a gift to me, in that it helped me to integrate and process life's chaotic experiences as a very young child. So when I say a gift to me, I mean truly to me, not necessarily that which I share with you, although I hope it is as well. It helps me today in my work in social justice. My professional life is around helping unhoused children and families and helping those who are living in poverty. And so I bring to you a trilogy of 3 poems that help me in this process of this work that I do. The first one is called Lost at 4th and Temple. He's 40 looking 60, lost at 4th and Temple, shivering and wet. He huddles in a tent pulling apart at the seams. His family exhausted, sit with their helplessness as tears flow, commingling with the drops set loose by the atmospheric river traveling over the night. You walk on by, taking an internal assessment of this young man, crazy druggie, of a man of whom you know nothing, One more of them is all I need to know, you whisper, with an upward glance, expecting a nodded agreement. But I know this man, lost at Fourth and Temple. The beautiful doe-eyed baby boy he once was, the man below the surface of the situation you now see, and I know his mothers and brothers and levels of others who know the beauty he has held. And now they hold him, not in their arms, but in the silent breath of tears and prayers for the baby who was once and the man below the surface who still is, even as he struggles lost at the corner of Fourth and Temple. Out of my work, I now teach others to do the work that I do. And it's very often that I'm sitting in a large group of professional men and women, and we're touching a little bit on our stories. And almost always when anybody gets to talking about a challenge with their family, their voice drops into a whisper. And so as that happened the third time last week, I went out to my car and wrote this. When I was young, she whispers, another nods, a knowing passes between. A silence falls. How many have tucked their childhoods into their back pockets, ashamed that they become known? Food stamps, free lunch, broken shoes, no bed to call their own. A dead parent, a drunk parent, a damned parent. Still, they hold the blame. They hold the shame, as if it's warranted, as if they earned it, as if the parent's failings define the child's worth. And then the final one I'll share with you, although if I read it quickly, I do have one to Kat as well that I'd like to close with. But this is one in this work and understanding the cyclical nature that we come back to so often. I offer this, the ancient mother. The ancient mother weeps. Her children are in pain. From the roots of the family tree, the blood runs down again. Deep within the womb of earth, the veins of quartz do bleed, bringing down the tears of sap, bringing mother to her knees. The ancient one has seen before the outcome of this strife. In pain, she sprouts a sapling, begins with each new life. A tangled root beneath the soil, a ball of life confused. Each generation of this tree to the one before is fused. Transplant a little one, give her room to grow, remove her just so slightly from the others in her row. Suddenly, new roots will form to feed the mother dear, taken from the lineage of pain, sorrow, fear. Having learned just enough, awakened with new sight, perhaps this little tree will help to bring the others light. With nurturing and growth, to the other roots she'll spread, gentle to untangle those, even those who play dead. Stop the blood flow from the top, let the love pour down. Remove all thought of pain, hurt, fear, bid mother gather round. Because forever they will share the ancient mother's love, those who sought to sleep below, and those who woke above. And then I end with this, a poet's pause for Kat. Natural wonders never ceased to astound. In each new experience, there were words to be found. From rivers' wild rush to guardian trees, from sun's scorching heat to fall's cool, soft breeze. Through a poet's eyes, a creative twist lens, from loving heart into words picture bends. A time must come when all take leave of this place. No matter the moment, there hangs empty space. But the poet not gone, ever present will be, for her words linger on and forever she's free.
I'm sure Kat heard that. She'd be very happy. Thank you. Next is Monika Rose. We are comrades in this day. Neither one of us could have done it without the other, and our voices helpers. And so Monika Rose.
I'll just read a couple from my book, River by the Glass. Sometimes when you write your poems and they sound one way, and then you have a second delight, and that is playing with the words on the page to make it look a certain way. So when I say the word William, it's will, I am. So if there's a dash between it. So it gives an added meaning, but you won't hear it spoken. Drowning at the kern. I have this thing about rivers. Trout expose themselves. Flippant silver streaks. White water turns a slow blue. Quiet comes to the river as mudsuckers in 2-foot pools turn and turn uneasily. William! William! The river trickles to a halt from the shutoff above, exposes the crying of a woman waist deep in her rival. William! William! She drags toward shore, her feet stones, blue clothes cling like wet plants. Hair snags her shoulders in algae strands. William! Her arms drip, body pulls down, trying to root. She rolls into a ball on the sand, head down in her legs. She curls into herself, alive. Her feet stick out, large and white. Fish swim in shallow pools, slowly visible. Think water is still marble, hiding their moves. Divers drag William out of the river, cover him with blankets and shiver. The bottoms of his flat feet glisten frozen like ghost trout, suddenly splitting the surface. The woman unravels herself and flops onto what was once love. They try to peel her away, and she fights them to stay. William! They were married just yesterday. Someone whispers, "What a shame." Willows rustle, wind screams, while a mouse skitters among the leaves. River starts to rise, exposes shoulders of boulders and banks, and covers what once was, what once is. And I'll do one more. This is another river poem with a lover, harmonica. Forgetting the music but finding new sound here by the river, where stone shapes the river songs, an amulet glitters in the sand. A talisman lost by a lover, maybe last night, here by the water, straining under the weight of new romance. A 4-holed harmonica on a black string, tossed in a groan or a sigh, flown into sand, reeds altered by grit. Bitter on the tip, my lips almost envelop the musical words, wondering how the tryst went, how deep did it slip, and how the taste lingers. Thank you.
Monika is the driving force of so many literary events in our county. We've known each other since the 1980s, and she started producing small journals and such. So really, she's our beacon. Thank you, Monika. Okay, my turn. I'm the Poet Laureate of Calaveras County right now. I finished my first year, and one of my projects was this event, but other ones are that I'm collecting words, phrases, songs from people in Calaveras County, and I'm making crowdsourced poems from them. And so I've done just the first district. We have 5 districts in Calaveras County, and so I have D2, which just got published in the paper, Calaveras Enterprise. And what happened was I'd go to people and say, could you just give me a little something, about where you live, what it is about our place where we live and such. And so one fellow emailed me one word. And another woman sent me a song she'd written. And so I tried putting this together like a puzzle so I could create this poem for these other voices. I'd like to share that with you now. And here is his one word he gave me, and I thought, I'll make it the title. Unity. This place, this life flows through me, sacred feeling, place of healing. Spring bursts as round-shouldered hills roll out green rugs. We're lucky enough, mud on boots worth every emerging crystal. Spring, autumn beauty, nature's sounds, rain shifts through cedars, doves coo in oaks, rivers echo. Summer, I am afraid. All is brown, hot, hot winds blow until we are green again. We dreamers, schemers, breathe deeply, take in the smell of first rain. Grateful communion up in the mountains, back from the ashes where our roots grow deep. Our conscience filled with joy, inside the brain, heart, and soul of tomorrow. This place, this life flows through me, sacred feeling, sacred healing. And let me say the contributors three of them were anonymous, and I said that's fine. Hope Baird, Lee Davis, Buzz Eggleston, Starlin Patrick, Monika Rose, Heidi Steingard, myself, and Marilyn Williams. So I'm working on D3, and I'm going to try to shame the other districts. I'm going to appear at the grocery store or somewhere and squeeze some words out of them. One of the things a poet laureate is asked to do is to sometimes write an occasional poem. And they're not really fun because you're kind of given a time to write about, a place to write about. And normally, most of us would agree we'd rather have our poems come out organically, spontaneously. But I was given months, which was very bad for this person to ask me in February to write a poem that would be revealed at an art walk months later in September. So February to September, there were 11 drafts. And I was asked to capture the heart of one particular town in Calaveras County where I happen to live, West Point. So here it is. West Point at the confluence. Our town is lost in the mountain reaches of a lightly populated county. We don't belong anywhere but to ourselves, a hideaway of artists and other loners taking care of each other. Fortunate in the scheme of life, our town forgotten, then remembered once in a while. We are not a destination unless a wrong turn heads you up the mountain, where wagons rolled along a dirt single-file road east along the riverbank. In the long before time, home to Miwok people, the people, their way of life compatible with Mewe, Eplali, Uya, Hilicha, Asumate, all still here. Then a timber town, lumberjacks led by bulls of the wood. Now West Point is still far away from anywhere, safe haven for us country folk. If you arrive by accident, stop at the cafe, top of Main Street. Find a library near the school, visit the community garden, or wait until Lumberjack Day, when far and wide the parade is the shining star of the year. Reality is enough food for thought. Wood split in the shed, chickens cluck about sunshine, ravens wheel on the wind. The smell after rain beyond pungent leaves, a chorus of wonder as humus clarifies soil. One can taste how life disintegrates and renews here in the wild foothills. So I'm working on a poem also for Murphy's Creek and Library, so that'll be out soon. But I really am enjoying getting words from people, and I don't really add much of my own. I just let their voices speak. It's great. Monika and the Manzanita Writers Press published a book of my poetry last year, for which I'm eternally grateful. And I'm just going to read a few from it. It's a book of haiku. It's called Raven Braids the Wind, Haiku, A Life in Syllables. And my husband and my daughter did illustrations for it. My son took my picture. It's a family affair. And I dedicated it to my grandfather, Enyu Kao, and he was a wonderful artist and musician, and also the captain of police in Honolulu long ago. It's arranged by seasons, and so I'm going to read the haiku for July. Tiny flying ants emerge, clouds of white fairies travel on the breeze. Ravens careen in acrobatic pairs over the river canyon. A family of skunks scamper across the road into sweet peas. Fawns jump the road, darting farther into the woods, each day a choice. Crickets chorus in the bat dark night of secrets. I hear an owl call. Mr. Toad lounges in the water dish every darkened evening. You can tell these are all from the world around me, my observations, and if you read it, you know where I live. The book is divided into 3 parts. The first part is haiku, which is nature related, and the second part is senryu, which don't have to be nature related and deal more with feelings and observations about the world. And I wrote this during COVID, and you'll hear maybe something about that in these, and also I'll try, but I do have some political things here too. Okay. In the wee hours, there is no dreaming, just one thought after another. Poised for friendship, we counted on time enough to share the amazing. Words flutter as if to make a poem or song, or nothing at all. Circumstantial evidence is enough to answer why. Optimism arm wrestles despair as if the world depends on it. Where is the 100th monkey waiting for us to notice it's time? Patriotism and independence suffer fools quietly. The aftermath of continuous dreaming, bouts of confusion. And then the third part I call an afterwards, and I've called these questionable haiku, because in an hour and a half I wrote 45, and they're all questions. So once in a while, this has happened once before where I just got on a roll and everything happened. So these are all questions. Are exceptions to the rule compatible with the golden rule? In the event that we can't remember how it happened, what then? What if this were the day we could finally rest in normality? What is there inside the dream of reality upside down? To the power of 10 times 10, why do beliefs explode like that? Can contributions to the inevitable defy gravity? Thank you. And if you're from Calaveras County and you haven't sent me some words, give them to me before you leave today. All right, I would like to have Fathom come up, and then I would like to have our group come up if you guys want to read. Okay. And I had the pleasure of being the judge for Poetry Out Loud in Calaveras County, and Fathom was such an enthusiastic participant.
Hi again. My name is Fathom. I performed this poem in the Poetry Out Loud competition this year. I chose it for my dad. Prayer for My Father by Robert Bly. Your head is still restless, rolling east and west. That body in you, insisting on living, is the young hawk, for whom the world darkens. If I am not with you when you die, that is just. It is all right. That part of you cleaned my bones more than once. But I will meet you in the young hawk, whom I see inside both you and me. He will guide you to our night. Who will give you the tenderness you want here?
Aries, I am war, I am chaos, I am the spirit of battle behind you with my chariot. Fight, 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 pushing you to death. I am death, I am gore, I am the warrior in chains and armor. Of course, this is all metaphors. I'm always the guard dog. Protect, protect, protect. Who's looking out for me? He said it would be quick. I let my chains fall for you, so why did you rip them off? Divinely feminine, overly masculine, an enigma. But to you, I was just another stigma. 1, 2, 3. I'll keep fighting for me. Some scars are never going to heal. They'll scab and fade, but I'll still feel you under my skin. It was all a lie. Why did I give in? There will be no next time. I am war. I will bring you to your knees. I will make you weep. I am chaos. You can't beat inevitability. Try me. I am death. If need be, I won't hesitate to kill off the light. Will you fight one? I am gore. I will eviscerate you from eternity. I will disembowel that foul mouth of yours. I am Aries, the spirit of war. I will take my victory, either by defeat or revenge.
A tomorrow without me. When tomorrow starts without me, and I'm not there to see, if the sun should rise on your beautiful eyes, full of tears for me. Now please don't cry for the words I forget to say, but I can no longer go on in this world filled with lies and dismay. All my love I give to you, but nothing else in this world of blue, for when tomorrow starts without me, I should miss you dearly. And each time I enter your thoughts, I know you miss me too. I'll remember your love and warmth as I say my final goodbye. A tomorrow without me, the sun will rise on high. And thank you.
You were always the one who understood how I felt, even when no one could. You were there even in my darkest days, and it's okay that for a while you seemed distant. I appreciate you being there and talking me through so much. I know I have done some crappy things, but even though you love me the same, you have grown to accept me and I have grown to accept you. I wouldn't change either one of us. You knew what I was trying to say when I couldn't form the right words, when the waves of my mind couldn't turn to calm tides reaching the shore. And you knew how to react calmly to all my flaws being human and to all feelings that flooded me and had dragged me out. I am glad I am able to come to you with questions and troubles. I am thankful that I have a shoulder I can lean on. I am glad we have a mutual understanding between the both of us. I am endlessly happy that I can listen to music with you in the car. It is one of my greatest joys. I thank you, for being the best, and reassuring me that you are the one I will always be able to come to, and letting me know that what I am feeling is always valid and I will be understood.
Dear Ariane, my life is like a box of chocolates. You pick and choose your favorites, but throw out the ones you don't like. There's missing parts in me that I never thought I needed to feel. Life moves on, but cracked wounds stay forever. My heart breaks at the thought of me, living life fast with nothing to take from it, begging and pleading for sanity, asking myself, where's my peace? Why is it always war when I'm trying to find myself? What did I do to deserve the agonizing pain of another? Why did I suffer from this ticking time bomb? I hate when it hits 12 and a new day begins with another version of myself. Battling between who am I today? Am I Ariane? Am I Ari? Am I Ree? Am I going to be soft or am I going to be hard? They say stop moving too fast, enjoy the moment. But how can I enjoy the moment that is killing me inside? Eating my feelings away, but enjoying the emptiness I still feel. I tend to ask, who are you? What did you become at the cost of others? Why is each breath such a hard one when you're not sick? Every swallow hurts when I hold back these tears. I wish to understand you like how you understood me. Wondering which life is mine and when I will go. You created me to ease your pain, but get upset with me when I try to fix you, so you become numb and go away to leave me. Drowning in the comfortability of your mistakes. I face this world by myself with others that are unknown. I'm naked to the eye, so naked that sometimes it's really cold. When you take pictures of me, you can see my reflection, but you just can't see the other me. Lost in the guilt of letting you fall, but never catching you to tell you it's okay. That everything will be okay because you have me. But I know you felt like you didn't. You keep choosing the right people, but leaving the wrong people in your wounds. They can't help fill this void that kills your fire in your soul. You dwell for a new life, for a new change, a new start. But now you just get stuck in your old ways and your own ways. Life hurts, but it's beautiful, so why did you not fix yourself? Why didn't you learn from the cautions of one mistake from the other? Why did you get comfortable with this version of yourself when I can scratch your mask off and no person is behind it? Can't be an empty body with the soul. I'm tired and I'm drained, so come back to me. As I call for you, bring back the life within you. Find beauty even in the ugly. Understand that being misunderstood is okay. It's okay to be alone and to be proud to be Ariane. All night and in the morning. Don't hide yourself, just live with pride. From Ari.
They say you should take a woman swimming on the first date so you can see who she really is. Untainted, barefaced, natural. Her imperfections made prominent, so she dips a toe into the water to wash away flaws that never existed. Men will create a tidal wave of lies, unchlorinated and unpolished excuses spilling from their mouths. He says he wants a woman worth diving into. I say, did you forget that you are nothing more than scum? You exist only to clog her filter and flood her senses, immersing her in all of your audacity and watching as she chokes on her insecurities, filling her lungs with standards she could never breathe under. While she sinks under the weight of your lies, sweep in to save her. Force your mouth onto hers and say it's for her own good, even when she screams at you to stop. Play the role of lifeguard so well she starts to believe you, forgetting she knew how to swim at all. Passing conversations turn into control and codependency, constantly reminded that she is nothing below perfect and nothing beyond an extension of you. Continue playing cat and mouse until you tire of it. Stagnant pools need to be changed eventually, so drain her of everything she has and force her to watch as you replace her with someone new. And do nothing but watch as she drowns in you.
You guys are astounding, absolutely astounding. And everyone today has written what we call a draft and shared them, and it's amazing. And there's one person I know that can write a draft and it sounds like it's a finished poem, so I'd like Gary Thomas to read.
Thank you, Linda. I'd like to read 3 short poems from a book of mine that came out last year called All the Connecting Lights. And this is the first time I've been able to thank Lee Herrick for writing one of the blurbs in person. Thank you, Lee. And thank you, Susan, for raising the name of Neruda. And thank you, Dana, for bringing up your mom. So this is a poem called Neruda and My Mother. This started about 20 years ago when I realized that Pablo Neruda and my mom were born in the same year. And so you always kind of wonder, what if, Neruda and my mother would be 119 today. Yeah, that's how old I am. Sharing, I think, a bowl of fresh peaches sprinkled with sugar, strewn with cinnamon, a little milk on top for more comfort. He would understand her smooth skin, her full smile ready to sing an old hymn. She would never fathom his poems or whiskey voice, but would love his Chilean sun and beaches. They could talk of children and the sea, look at old photographs of inner tubes and cousins floating belly up in afternoon rivers, learn magic words like Wichita and Santiago, write them down with the other bits of each other's addresses, and promise to write. And they would, I know, if only Neruda and my mother had met on a cruise in 1924, traveling to Rangoon, Singapore, Batavia, sleeping on deck to duck the heat, feeling the breeze and its gift of salt. Every time the summer sweat coursed down their lips and all the years after, they would remember the salt while they thought of the sweet peaches and vowels reuniting someday. I was an 8th grade English teacher for 31 years, and every day I shared a poem with my students. I loved doing that. What I hated more than anything was administering standardized bubble tests, which I understand still goes on. This poem is called Even This Day, and it opens with a long quote by the poet Kenneth Patchen. If a poem can be headed into its proper current, someone will take it within his heart to the power and beauty of everybody. But before that happens, we will sit in lines of 6, all facing the front, our eyes focused on our booklets, our sheets with small circles, our pencils grinding pockmarks hard into the faces of our desks. We will pretend, for familiarity's sake, that any of this matters, that our time is well spent, pardon me, that if we were to connect the dots, a poem about architecture would appear, perfect in its geometry and reason, beautiful and strong as a cathedral, a cataract of stone and holy water. Anybody reading this after we have done breathing should know we were as alive as if we had been singing or drifting on small rafts, heading downstream, staring straight above at all the connecting lights. And one more. This came about a few years back at an open mic in my vicinity where most of the poets were young poets, and not all of them had mastered, like these splendid poets, how to use a microphone, how to use their voices. Thank you, poets. So these are different poets. This is called Marcel Marceau at the open mic. And if you have to be told who Marcel Marceau was, ask your grandparents or me. They are used to reading their work this way, these young poets who brandish their splintered screens, scarcely containing their need to read what they tapped 10 minutes before taking the stage. The more rehearsed read their Anne Frank raps, their epistolary anger poems with air stabs and Emily Dickinson references to the one or the ones who abandoned them, including their muses, their rhymes coiled into snaky couplets, defiant and proud enough to say thank you when they're done. Some of them forget there's a microphone in front of and not surrounding them. Their shop words that shout become mummery, or alternate between full-on and lost to the ether. To clap or to finger snap, that was the poem. And I, the elder who appears to chide and be snide and glib enough to ad-lib my ears, as if I were not this old because I was that young. I was their young words once, just without a screen to wield or a stage to take over, their visions of justice and the candor to carry them out. Only I didn't enough. And my poems are as long as my time here isn't. And this poem wants to say to them, your voice is worth your best words. If you can truly believe that, if you can stand to listen to mine, and finally for now, I promise I will listen deep for yours. And then some more again. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. All right. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to read who wants to. If you haven't had an opportunity to read and you'd like to read now, come on up. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. This is Deja. She works with the Amateur Arts Council. She's fantastic.
Not everybody knew Kat, but Kat was a very wonderful person, and she meant a lot to a lot of us. And one of the best quotes I got from Kat was that poets are needed in today's difficult world. Long may we all write our feelings, thoughts, ideals among one another. And I really think today was a great emphasis on that. And thank you all for being here. So thank you guys.
First, I just want to say I'm very encouraged and inspired by many of you, and especially those young voices. I'm a teacher, and I sometimes get lost in the agony of test results and things like that. I landed in nearby during the pandemic, and after it was like the cherry on top of a lot of things over the last couple of years. And especially to those who are young and writing and loving it, don't lose your voice, because sometimes that sea witch of life takes it from you and you forget about writing as a way to find yourself and cope. Didn't think I was going to get emotional. And I'll just say, free verse is the way to go when you have lost your voice. Just see the world and let it happen. So I have two I want to read. I don't know if I'll just do it. Okay. 91 going on 99 Fahrenheit. Smoke sags on the horizon, circling and omnipresent. Blue sky is straight above, but it's hard to keep your head back to see it, unless you're waiting to die. The pool is vacant, and it's mid-Sunday, mid-season, and midlife. Last week, a kid was having a standoff with his weekend father, and everyone, including his brother, watched in silence until the spectacle left, and then came the comments, "If I acted like that, my dad would have." But today, the pool is peacefully free of power struggles and bystanders. The sun glimmers on soothing waters, beckoning to ease my back. And I step in, halfway, letting myself adjust to the cool water. Moving and stretching without thinking, I am soon neck deep and alone. My morning hours of work in the wrong position, or simply too many hours at work instead of living, tug and bind my movements, but yet I move, swimming through bills, political extremes, and community side-eye. A near-perfect breaststroke with my right, but with my left, I am reminded of trying to rotate a plastic arm of a doll. Barbie-like, I glide peacefully for an hour. Enter two small children with their adult. The tiny girl says, "Talk quietly," to her companions, and then screams her directive when the whispers can still be heard. They are happy. There are no real standoffs, but the emerging leader is clear. Adult and sibling play along with her and splash. I too pretend and wish for control. The distraction is just a mirror. The 10% rent increase, the attempt to buy the dream of stability, only 2.98% interest, only 3% down, plus closing costs, and a 30-year mortgage with the same payment every month. I've done the math. It means I'll pay nearly double the sticker cost. Interest rates and irritable bowel syndrome clog my calculator. Visions of security allure me, trick me into the American dream, and if it works, I say goodbye to the pool, to the view of the sunset, to no yard work for the sake of the Joneses, all for the hope of not throwing my money away, for the opportunity to build a shitload of debt. Suddenly, more children descend and jump in with a splash, and a text message tells me bidding wars will ensue without me. As the sun strikes from above, last week's ordinary one arrives, complacent with the other parent. The system has some balance, yet it's dangling us all between guardians and dreams. As I get up to leave, I see a blue plastic action figure floating in the pool, his limbs akimbo, unable to paddle himself to safety. Keep floating and you'll get there, eventually, I say. because that is what I've been told to say to myself. But I know we are all just one stroke away from drowning. And maybe because this one is feeling a little bit more positive, sort of. Aerobics for aging butterflies. That brilliant thought I had when I didn't have a pen because I was water dancing in the pool, lost like youth, lost like my keys. No memory of becoming lighter in the instant it was lost. Back when I sat for days on end, stuck in what we all thought was limbo, but simply was life stripped down to meals and a bed, existence, the only thing life always is when we are too busy to notice, distracted from ourselves and each other, rarely in the moment. In the reflection of the camera and TV screen, my youthful face began to wilt. My hair's gray trickles turned into streams. Lines came without laughter. The worry crack dug deeper. Even when hope was not lost, hope that left me hungry, arms empty. But these empty arms are experienced, and this saves me. For I have always been alone on my own quest, so this battle is nothing. But I know someone who found she was alone in nothing and couldn't stand herself alone, probably sank to the bottom of her grief, having never known the strength and solidarity of self. I weep for her and thank the heavens for my extra long solo journey, and pray again for something else. The distance stretches thin between me and my almost lover. At the edge of this pool, amongst those decades ahead of me, our limbs dangling like kelp, stirring through memories under our feet, timeless like the universe, and steaming into the infinite, numbered by our blind calculations. Humanity in sunglasses, too cool to listen, too cold to care, too broken to put it back together the way we found it, too broken to build it up or out or in any direction that might fit anyone. And from this muddy path of blind survival, I gave in to whatever and told myself to try. And under a week, from stranger to sweetheart with emojis on top. Yet settling now seems as pointless as ever. I wonder where my keys are. And I wonder what that brilliant thought was. Climbing the stairs, I cling to the side rail, exiting the pool into the gravitational pool of reality. My skin is wrinkled, like that reminder to children, you will be old one day, so swim till you're a prune, but don't let the pit sink you.
So after across my many years on this planet, I spent a lot of time, it turns out, in Sierra Nevada. And I wrote about it, and I wrote a song about it. So I'm going to sing it for you. And it's kind of one of those things, the melody is a little monotonous on purpose, because it's just like, close your eyes and let's see. Won't you take me with you to the mountains, my love? Wish I had my guitar. We'll climb to the top of the world and look down. We'll sleep where the river is born and moves on, and God's own feet touch the earth in the alpenglow of dawn. We'll cross over rivers of flowers that flow from the glacier and wander to the valley below. We'll follow those ribbons of red, blue, and green, and lie down together by a cold mountain stream. Won't you take me with you to the river, my love, where the water skims along the wide granite track? We'll slide on the polish into the swimming hole and let the beauty of this place quench the thirsting in our souls. We'll go where the snow stays on the north-facing wall and slopes gently down to the river floor and kisses the water with lips made of lace. And we'll keep each other warm in this cold and sacred place. Won't you take me with you to the meadow, my love, where streams trickle into the high mountain lake? Won't you take me to the meadow for our own true love's sake? We'll go to the place where the red tail looks down and watches Coyote as she hunts in the ground to feed her poor babes the long summer days. These are the secrets that the meadow betrays. Won't you take me with you to those mountains, my love? One poem that I wrote shortly after my son was killed, and before he died, we had a phone conversation. And if you have, kids who are teenagers or in their 20s, you're not always having the best conversations with them. So I wrote this. It's called Thanksgiving. The last thing my son ever said to me was, "I love you, Mom." And the last words I was ever able to say to him were, "I love you too, honey." Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Blackbirds in their cages kept on singing. They lost their feathers, but their spirits could fly. Since we've been here, we've been beat people, keeping beat people, even though sometimes it felt like we were beat people. And they beat us like we weren't even people. And all that jazz. A musical mural measured in measures of melanin, cast in bronze-bodied brass players, America's original art form and art theft. This country took its notes on our notes, noticed our natural nuances, yet it refused to say our names for namesake, but we knew that. From the moment that our bare feet made contact with these foreign sands, we brought names. Wrapped in shackles and carried across the Atlantic waves, our names were Djembe and Bata and Boogaraboo. We talked like drums and they didn't know what to do, but they knew we had a rhythm, a rhythm, a rhythm, a rhythm running through our brains. So they played us. Pounded our skin until they cracked our shells open and cut the strings that kept us tied to our culture. They turned djembes into Djangos, batas into masas, tamas into tar babies, and boogaraboos into jigaboos. Slavery may have clipped our captive tongues and altered the dialects of the diaspora, but from our suffering came new sounds. We learned to keep time with hands and feet, and we learned to find the strength in moments of weakness. Slave songs were the syncopation to survival on the plantation. They told us to sew scraps together and make patches work. So we called it ragtime. We turned our field clothes into finery and we made line dances out of cotton picking. We've been the entertainers here. Scott Joplin just put a name to it. Robin Thicke tried to run away with it, blurring the lines between appreciation and appropriation. Elvis Presley thought that we would give that hound dog a bone. And Frank can't scat to save his life Sinatra with his whole strangers in the night, doobie-doobie-doo. He wouldn't know a whole shoo-bop-shoo-dow from a did-did-dee-dow if it came and smacked the fedora off of his head. But you know something about scatting? It sounds just a little bit like this. Dee-dee-da, ba-ba-doo-ba-doo, ba-ba-doo-ba-doo-dee, ba-doo-ba-doo-dee-dee-dow. You know, something like that. Inspired vocalizing in which the voice is used to mimic an instrument, but I define it as a dialect of the divine, dictated by the musings of the muses of jazz music, my musical ancestors. Because you know, these were the original disc jockeys before CDs became a thing, before DJs became a thing. And you know something? Since we've been here, we've been beat people, keeping beat people. Even though sometimes it felt like we were beat people, we keep the beat people. We keep on marching to the rhythm of our nation, pretty please people. And all that jazz. Thank you.
Okay, that was a piece to end with. That was fabulous. I want to thank you all for being here. From what I can tell, this has been a magical day for all of us. And I want to close, because we're a little bit over our time, by saying this is the unceded land of the Central Mountain Miwok people. And in their language, they have a word for greeting people, but when I was learning some language with them, I asked about goodbye, and they said, there's no word for goodbye. It was maybe a gesture or something. But he finally said, okay, well, maybe you can use this word. It means to wave. Kotapum. Kotapum. Thank you for coming.